There's something very illusory and surreal about life, isn't there? Now, I could just be projecting. I could be rambling based on my own personal experience, but I want to know how many other people out there feel like this, the way I do. I can barely remember what happened. I can scarcely remember what I did or what happened in the past, I think, 3 or 4 years of my life, probably going even back further than that. There's a certain sort of highlight reel of special events and things that happened. Like, I graduated university, I got my first full-time job, and I quit that job. Then I went off to Canada and lived there for almost a year. I got in a relationship, then the relationship ended. So scattered amongst the past 10 years, there are some moments which I look back on and think, well, that was different, that was new, that was refreshing. But most days are not like that at all. Most days are quite monotonous and repetitive. And it wreaks havoc with my perception of reality, because each day is so similar to the other one that I can scarcely tell each one apart, and it makes me question whether I was really experiencing it or not, or if it was imaginary. And this is what I mean when I say it feels like we're living in the Matrix. You see, we're all led to believe that we have free will, that we have effortful control. We can decide what we want to eat, what we want to do, what we want to say, where we choose to work, and how we conduct ourselves in life. But a lot of the time, the choices don't really feel like they're being made by us, but they're already sort of predetermined. And each time, we might be acutely aware of the fact that we're making the same choices each time. That when I go to the pub, I order the same drink, I order the same food, or when I go to the local One Stop or Waitrose or Tesco's, or Sainsbury's. I never really shop at Tesco. I order the same sandwich, the same drink, the same meal deal. I drink the same coffee each day. Like, part of me is conscious of and knows, part of me is cognizant of the fact that I've already done this many times before, and yet on the other hand, I can't extricate myself from that pattern. Sorry, I need to open a window because it's so hot in here. And this car door window. There we go. But no matter what happens, each time the same pattern of behavior repeats itself. And even though I'm aware each time, I've run down this route so many times before, I had the same thoughts, I've had the same fantasies, the same daydreams. I want to see if I can position this camera so that I'm more in the sort of middle of it. But nothing new happens. I can tell you, mentally, spiritually, I'd say I don't feel any different now at 30 to how I felt more or less 8 or 9 years ago. The only thing that's different about me now is that I have these lines on my face. I'm probably going to get a lot more furrows on my brow, and my hair's probably going to go grey in a couple decades. But up in here, not much has changed. Each day is the same recycled monotony. A lot of it boils down to the fact that doing the same thing again and again, getting a job, working at this job, or going to school and studying, so on, until you graduate, it all serves a purpose, and that is, well, money, lucre, or progress. Because you're here, the place where you want to be is here, and what do you have to do to get over there? You have to grind. You have to do the grind. You have to knuckle down and do the same thing each day until you finally reach the end point. But what if there is no end point? What if the end point is death? The extinction of consciousness? Now, this is not really something that ever occurred to me as a child. Finally, I think I must have been 9 or 10 years old when I first watched The Matrix Brothers. What am I saying? When I first watched the original Matrix movie by the Loy brothers. It was a cool sci-fi film, although I was too young and I didn't really have the capacity to understand all the heavy, in-depth talk about consciousness, the future, humanity, and our dependence on machinery. But anyway, when I say I think we're living in the Matrix, I don't mean this as in to say that we're actually living in a simulation that's controlled by machines, although, I mean, sometimes I do wonder, possibly. But a lot of life it doesn't feel real. It feels fake. It feels scripted. Like, a lot of the time, I have sort of the same interactions with people, the same surface level interactions where I say, how are you doing? You all right? And they give the same answer in pretty much more or less the same way that when you talk to an NPC in a video game. Is it just me who feels like this? It can't be just me. I suspect that there's a lot of people who feel like this can't really be it. There's got to be a higher plane of consciousness out there. And this is all... It's a set of stimuli. It's people are following a set of behaviors. Most of the time they realize they don't... most of the time they don't even realize they have no control over. We engage in the same kind of harmful, repetitive behaviors. Some of us are unfortunate enough to have the capacity to self-reflect and realize we're doing the same things each time, and yet we just can't break free. We just keep doing the same, we just keep running the same protocols, the same set of behaviors. It's possible that what I'm describing could be just a symptom of clinical depression or anhedonia, because people who experience depression, they often feel like the things they do bring them no joy and no value. And it's true that I have been in and out of severe bouts of depression, I think dating at least back to the past 10 years. But I don't know. If this were a problem caused by, say, an imbalance of hormones in the brain like dopamine, norepinephrine, endorphins, and cortisol, then theoretically this could all be resolved by taking pills, taking antidepressants. But in my case, I feel like I have a bit of a different view on that. I believe conditions like depression and anxiety, they're not mental health neuroses, they're not mental illnesses, they're existential illnesses. I'm saying that feeling a sense of overwhelming despondency Like everything you do, you've already done it a zillion times before. Every thought you have is a thought you've had many times before. Everything you eat, everything you drink, you've done it a million, billion, trillion, zillion times before, and you know what the outcome's going to be, and yet you still do it anyway. And that's reminded me, actually. So, if I were to get a large piece of paper or a notepad, describe in detail what I did each day, and what the end result of that day was, I'd probably have to write a lot. Maybe it'd be better if I kept something like a diary or a journal. I do actually have one, by the way, but anyway, that's besides the point. Anyway, if I were to do this, if I were to commit myself to this, where I analyze what I did each day, listed it, I could probably formulate some sort of mathematical, logical conclusion as to what the next 5 years of my life could be like. And yet, part of me is blind. I feel like I'm not allowed to see what will happen 5 years ahead in the future. There's this big, thick, grey fog that prevents me from seeing what the next 5 years of my life are going to be like in the future. And part of me isn't even certain that there will be a future in 5 years' time. It's scary, but anything can happen. There could be a cataclysmic global catastrophe that disrupts the global supply chains, and suddenly everyone's living in a depression that is so terrible it makes the Great Depression of the 1920s feel like a freaking gender reveal party. I hope that was a good enough metaphor. I hope those of you can appreciate what I'm trying to convey here. Or I might be dead. Something terrible might have happened to me. I might have gotten so tired, so sick and tired of the monotony that I might decide, screw this, I can't carry on like this anymore, and I might do the unthinkable. But I can't know if that's what's going to happen. So in the meantime, I'm just stuck here, living out the rest of this sentence in what may or may not be reality or some kind of artificial simulation. Now, as I've said in the beginning of this video, I don't know if you guys can relate to what I'm saying. It could just be that I feel like this and nobody else does. But what do you think? Do we live in the Matrix? Is this real life? What do you guys think? I'd be interested to hear your thoughts.